Hey there, all. This is the Creator's Message will rise up. Nice to see you guys all again. Today we're going to be talking about God's perfection. Or better yet, God's imperfection. Or is there really a difference? So if you're hearing a purring sound in the background, I'm sorry, because my mic is too good and my cat is too loud. There's no way to work around it. One of the things I've always found very interesting about Christianity and Islam, and the Greeks too, they've got this belief that God is absolutely perfect and nothing imperfect. All of perfection and nothing of imperfection. But when we look out across creation, we see imperfection and perfection and all back and forth, upside down, every which way and everything in between. So I don't know if it's that they say that, so God is perfect, but he created a whole bunch of imperfect stuff. If he was perfect, why would he create imperfect crap? What's the point of that? And if he's just all the perfect stuff, all the light stuff, all the good stuff, all the cuddles, all the love, all the strength, all the power, all that good stuff, and nothing else, who created all that stuff? He did too? Even though that he's not any of that stuff and has no use for it, has no relation to it, doesn't identify with it in any sort of way? What the fuck would the point of that be? Why? For what? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. You know, I find this idea of breaking God into these little pieces very understandable if you take the yin-yang. Take the yin-yang. You got the yin and the yang. It's all good when the yin and yang are together, because that's what they are. It's a yin-yang. It's one whole. It's got two parts in it, but they don't exist without each other. You take one away, you make the other part non-existent. You make itself non-existent. They can't be without each other. They're completely complementary in existence. Without each other's complementariness and completeness as one, it's nothing. You might as well just say it's irrelevant, doesn't exist, can't exist. What would the point of it being? Everywhere when we look out across creation, there's dualities everywhere we see. And in no one thing can you ever find no duality. Now, to say that each part of the duality within the whole are separate things on their own, that's just as batshit insane. That's where you start going awry. One is one, and two complementary parts that complete one as one, that cannot exist without each other. That's not a duality as we know it. That's two parts of a whole. God's perfection is just as much as his imperfection. He is perfectly imperfect. He is imperfectly perfect. It's the only way you can have it. It's the only way you can have a God that's all-encompassing. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, and God is just a fucking crackhead who, when he gets all fucking stoned once in a while, he just decides to do batshit crazy shit. No answers, no excuses needed. And I think most of those religions they've all really, separated God from his own imperfection. You've separated the perfection from the imperfection. I don't think that you guys realize that all of your little mythologies and your stories, they all tell this is not a very good thing to do. Not at all. They say that this is the way that you end up corrupting yourself. Don't believe me? I mean, you might want to pick up your Quran right now and your Bible or whatever. I don't even know what frickin' book Lucifer's in. whatever text talks about Lucifer. And your text about Zeus and Kronos. Whether it's El Shatan, Lucifer, or Zeus, each one of these characters was highly preferred somewhere in the story. They were seen to be the best of the best, without any evil, without any bad. That's why they were spared, or something along those lines, or, propped up against, above everybody else, or, given special passage, something along those lines. They were preferred. They did something for God, or one of the gods, in some of the stories, that made them preferred, made them special. And later on in their lives, they decided that they didn't like their daddy. Dada wasn't so cool anymore. They were mad at Dada. They had a little childish temper tantrum at Dada. With Zeus and Kronos, it's that Kronos is the god of time. And the way that they depict the god of time is it's something that creates, but then at the same time consumes all that it creates, which is very, 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 very realistic of time. But somehow, electricity and lightning, storms, can dethrone time. So there is no more time. It's been dethroned. It's been put down in Hades. What? You mean the TikTok, the thing that I need to be talking right now? It's all gone? See where you start getting into problems like this? But anyways, in his old age, he ends up becoming just as wicked as Kronos. It's kind of funny, The proclaimed absolute good ends up becoming an abomination of good. The truest evil that the planet's ever known. Kind of shit. It's funny. It's like if you don't let the imperfection be there with the perfection, you end up, it gets a whole lot worse. I think that's what a lot of people miss. They go out spending a lot of time warring on unnecessary evil, or just simple imperfection that you can't stomp out. You can't stop it. It's part of creation. Learn to love it. If you love your God, like you guys all say you do with all your prayers and shit, then love all of his creation. Stop being so fucking picky and choosy. Lucifer's a very similar story. He hates humanity. He hates the imperfection of humanity. He thinks they're lesser than him, this or that. El Shatan from the Muslim story, it's the very similar story to Lucifer, and at least for the points in which that he dislikes the humans, or the reason why he transgresses against God, his original sin, and all of these things. And it ends up being that God's imperfection, or the imperfection within creation that he's created. And that's a dangerous road to go if you can't see. There's perfection in this world and there's imperfection, and neither one of them is any more good than bad. I think a good way to say it is that there's many routes to the top of a hill. When you're going to look for a high place to pray, there might be more than one way up that hill. So, why do you have to pick and choose the way that a lot of you do? Now, good and evil, I find this is where it gets more deep. Because it's almost like if you take God and he's got his good and his evil, his imperfection, his perfection, you separate him out of the yin-yang. Portions of the human race have just picked up a portion out of yin-yang and they're running away with it. And instead of saying that they're the evil or this or that, let's just look at things. If you grab something that's attached to another thing and you just delude yourself into thinking that it's not attached, what's going to happen when you pull on it, yank on it, twist on it, flip on it, throw it, try to drag it, all this stuff? Well, it's going to end up coming with it. And if you're so delusional that you keep on doing this and you're trying to move down, trying to go through a forest, let's say, you might not be treating the other end of that yin-yang so well. Do you understand what I'm saying? By deluding yourself into thinking that you can run away with half that yin-yang, you end up causing a tremendous amount of damage within creation on the other side of that yang. You can't separate them. When you do this with God, it's the same thing. When you separate the good and the evil from God, and the perfection and the imperfection from God, you're doing the same thing. You're turning around and deciding that only a portion of God is worthy to you, and everything else, no. I don't like him. He's no good. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like batshit insanity. If you're gonna have a God, shouldn't it be almighty, all-powerful, all-encompassing, omnipotent, all that kind of stuff? Because, when you separate him, you're making him impotent. Now, there has to be somebody else that does all the bad in the world, that's responsible for all the evil. Every little thing that goes wrong, you gotta blame on some other guy. It can't be that God put the world out there so that's just the way that it is. You gotta make up some excuse why there's bad in the world, other than that any God that would be almighty, all-encompassing, all-impotent, all that kind of stuff, he would have to be perfectly imperfect and perfectly perfect. He would have to be what he is when he is all the time. I am what I am. Or as like the Samaritans say, I will be as I will be. So, think about that. That are you spending a lot of your life repeating the same sin as Zeus, as Lucifer, as El Shaitan? Are you spending a great amount of your life waging war on the necessary evil or imperfections of this world? The things that have to be there. And the only reason why I'm telling you this is because I actually give a shit. And I don't want you to turn into an abomination of good in doing so, trying to pursue that road. I'm very certain that it's much easier to go mad in blindness than get lost in emptiness. What I'm saying is, if you try to be too good of a person, especially if you haven't fallen down all the way first, you don't know. You think that you can just keep traveling towards the light. But the fact of the matter is, go and find any light out there, find its source, and then go and get your face up nice and close to it and stare into it. You'll go blind. When you run away with what you think is the goodness of the world, the preference of the world, the perfection, the likability, you're doing the same thing. And then in doing so, even if those people weren't your enemies, now they are. Even if those things weren't a danger to you, now they are. Even if you had no reason to be fearful of them, now you do. So, why get into it? Isn't there more important things to worry about in this world? I'm pretty sure we just need to read Torah, and we don't need to break God into separate little itty-bitty pieces. Who cares if he shows us in every different way? He's all-encompassing. No shit. If something's all-encompassing, you look out your window. There is God. Can you see him? No, you don't see him? Well, I see him. He's right there. It's everything there. Oh, but that's like everything. That's not just one. No, because it's all-encompassing. It's everything. All of it. Everything within it. If I was going to point my finger on it, the only part that the Greeks got right about anything is that maybe God was this very close representation is time. All of eternity, all of creation. But, that'd still be all the darkness, all the light, all the good, all the bad. All of the duality. Not just the ones that you like and you identify with and you decided to cuddle up with. All of it. Now, you might still look at this world as so much of a duality. But I like to look at it as every tool's got a purpose. There's a trick for every trade. There's a process, a way for every job. There's a way of doing things for everything. If I pick up a hammer and I decide to go do brain surgery, I might end up killing the patient. But if I pick up whatever tool is meant to do the brain surgery and I do it properly, then I got a much better chance. We're talking about right here, open heart surgery, same thing. Decide I'm going to start doing it with a hammer, just, Even when we look at things like murder and stuff. Murder is wrong until someone's murdered one of your own, and then, according to the Torah, then you have the right to seek justice. An eye for an eye. So even a horrible thing like murder can all of a sudden be the thing that makes the good in the world. And when we start looking at that, it's really hard to start saying what's good and what's bad, because it's all situational depending on what's already happened or what hasn't happened. And you can't just hate all murder, because what if it's murder in self-defense? Okay, well then I'm only gonna not hate murder in self-defense. Well, what if it's murder out of revenge because somebody killed 10 other people? Okay, well then you gotta start getting in all these different, I'm gonna be an absolutist, but I've got all these little clauses. Why? Why start making this arrangement with yourself, this contract of I'm gonna close myself in? Why not look at everything out there? There's good, there's bad, there's ugly, there's everything in between. And if there is a God out there, he'd have to be all of it too. He'd have to be perfectly imperfect and perfectly perfect. And that's the only way you could have him. Any other way, he'd be impotent. He'd be incomplete. And he'd be a fucking goddamn delusional crack whore that just starts fucking doing crazy shit whenever they feel like it. So, think about that. Anyways, everyone, peace out, enjoy. Send some shekels to the donation box if you really feel like it. Have a good one.